legends, and welcome to Blunt Force Healing Podcast, episode 279, I believe, if I'm correct. I didn't check the current number, but I think I remember correctly. So, back to yesterday's episode. I hope you liked it because it was one of not many. I would probably say two or three in the whole span of the video recordings that I've done outdoors. And it was quite fun to record it yesterday as we were in Glenveagh National Park, and we were very, I would say, happy and appreciative of being able to not only visit that area and the park itself, but also the grounds of the castle. Despite that, the castle itself, the reception, the tea rooms, and all the amenities were closed for guests because it was after the visitors' hours, but the grounds of the castle and the gardens were still open, which was an amazing experience, to be honest. I felt a little bit like, Alice going through the rabbit hole into the Wonderland because, to be honest, that's probably the most beautiful castle, gardens, and place in Ireland that I've visited so far in terms of the, I would say, specific atmosphere. Of course, it might be slightly differently perceived if you are in visiting hours and you have crowds in there or, in general, kind of visitors. For us, it was amazing because we were late during the day. So, as I said, the visitors' hours were closed. Well, the visitors' hours can't be really closed. The garden and amenities were in general closed for the visitors, but the gates were open for the public to go in as long as you respect the grounds and close the gate behind you. And there was no single visitor when we were there. So the moment we were approaching the doors to the castle, some international visitors were leaving, and when we left the castle grounds after about 5 or 10 minutes of walking back to the car park, we only saw maybe one visitor going towards the castle. So while we were there in the castle or in the castle kind of grounds, there was no single soul. And it was a little bit eerie and creepy to some extent, but also so beautiful in, you know, the scent of all those plants and flowers in the garden, a lot of them tropical and not native to Ireland. It was just amazing. A lot of birds, and the castle itself is a Scottish style kind of design. I've read a little bit about that, design and how that castle was created, and indeed there was I think it was a Scottish architect, or the architect that actually was influenced by Scottish architecture or Scottish castles and designed it this way. So not only you're on the shore of the beautiful lake that Glenveagh Loch or Loch Via in original name is actually beautiful in itself. It's surrounded by the valley and the mountains around, and then you have that kind of forest or kind of big garden, and in the middle sits that old castle with a lot of different, sculptures and areas. So you keep exploring, and it's like you feel a little bit like a kid, you know, when you were small and everything was like a magic, and you were curious about every corner. It's exactly like that. This castle looks very cool. We didn't explore everything, but I was quite amazed, and it exceeded my expectations because we were going to the Glenvia Park and we were expecting to not only have rain and gloomy weather and, you know, not be able to get into the castle or into the castle grounds, but not only, well, there was a little bit of rain and we got wet on the way into the castle, but later on it cleared out. We dried fairly quickly because the breeze was warm and it was, it wasn't making any difference for us in terms of temperature, so it wasn't cooling us down, and it dried us out. And until the very end of the trip, we didn't have any rain, so the sky cleared. There was a little bit of, maybe not sunshine, but a lot of light because the clouds cleared a bit, and it was a lovely weather, lovely temperature. And as I said, the birds singing and the scents of all those plants and no visitors, only us as a family. It was such a kind of, surreal experience. So we'll definitely go back in there, albeit we need to think about. So we want to go back to experience the tea rooms and get into the castle and see how, if we can explore the upper elements like the tower of the castle itself. There was one tower that was accessible, and you could go up and down to the lake shore. But I'm interested in the main tower that has stairs in there, and I'm not sure if it's accessible for visitors, but we'll see. And we just I would like to spend a day in there, just sipping coffee and having a nice scone and just observing that beautiful place. Although I know that if visitors are there, it will be, I would say, less interesting, or definitely won't be the same experience as we went there yesterday. So that was definitely a great day out. And today, we actually did two walks. So it was meant to be a Saturday kind of lazy day, slightly. My wife decided to do her training and some things that she missed on in the last 2 days. So she stayed at home, and Julian, my mother, and my brother, and myself, we decided to go out and drive to Lecholny Loop Walk, or some people call it Mina Wind Farm. So it's as the name says, there's a lot of windmills, the proper fans that are, you know, generating a lot of power from the wind in our area. And I've been there multiple times, and even my mother was there with my father and myself when we were in wintertime. I think it was December, but obviously it was a different experience today. It was super warm. I think it was the warmest day for a while. It was probably 27 or 20, well, maybe not 27, 25 degrees at least. Just a breeze that was very warm. It was cloudy, but the sun was shining from time to time, and there was no rain at all. So it was a great experience. We did Lechoni loop, not the full one, but the one that we usually do, which is about 6.5 kilometers. And then we had a plan to go after dinner for dessert and a couple of drinks to the old castle bar, and we did in the evening with my mother and my brother. So my wife, myself, my mother and my brother, and Julian stayed home to play a little bit of PlayStation. And we went to Old Castle Bar, which is about 2.5 kilometers from our house. So we did another 5K walk, which accounts for almost 12 kilometers today of walking, which was decent. No super interesting points of interest, but it was a fairly active day, and I'm happy that it was this way. It's 23:04, which is 11:04 p.m. So it's better today in terms of I'm doing that recording earlier, and I will sit down and do the blog post in a second. But still, that tendency of going to the later hours is there, and I'm trying to, taper it down, and I hope it will work out. I think it will change, and it will be much more easy after Monday, because on Monday my family flies back to Poland, so we will be more or less in the same schedule that we were before they came in. There will be more, I would say, order in what we do every day, and more space for proper arrangement of those tasks. So fingers crossed, it should be normalizing next week, I hope. Other than that, nothing happened today. Tomorrow is the last full day that we will be with my mother and my brother, so we will certainly plan something tomorrow, albeit it might be rainy. It should still be fairly warm, so I need to check the weather and see how it goes. But I expect tomorrow to do something fun. If we won't go anywhere far, we'll probably end up on the beach, regardless if it rains or not. We'll take the surfboards and spend some time in the ocean, because I expect the water will be, warm enough to enjoy it and have fun. Regardless if the water comes from the air or from up above, if we'll be wet, we don't care. So likely we'll visit some beaches as well. I was thinking about taking the boards and go to Malinbeg, which is the kind of the most western end of Donegal County, but I'm afraid that this beach might be too dangerous for Julian. He's not yet a comfortable swimmer, and even though I am fairly comfortable swimmer, you know, you shouldn't risk it with the rip currents, and those smaller bays tend to have rip currents. So it all depends on what type of waves will be there. So we'll see. I'm still probably leaving that until tomorrow morning and plan it tomorrow morning. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much for coming. It was a fairly short update, but I think those shorter and more dense updates, to the point, are better and easier to consume until I have some more structure to the episodes. So let me get to the blog post and embed this episode. So if you're listening on Spotify, or watching on Spotify, or watching on YouTube, or listening on Apple Podcasts, and you don't know, there is a blog that I started this whole project with in parallel with the podcast. And usually blog posts are written a little bit different about different things. The theme is similar, but it's not the same content. So if you want to check this out, the URL or web address is in the description of the episode. Once again, thank you very much. Stay tuned and see you tomorrow.